like to call the meeting to order, please. Mr. Colavito, will you take the roll, please?
Ms. Driver.
Here.
Mr. Herbert.
Here.
Ms. Linthorst.
Here.
Ms. Long.
Here.
Mr. Mason.
Here.
Ms. O'Reilly.
Here.
Mr. Sawicki.
Here.
Ms. Williams-Galliano.
Here.
Ms. Grillo is not here yet. We do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advanced notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Hopewell Valley Regional Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof communicated to the Hopewell Valley News, the Times, and the Trentonian on January 7th, 2020. This meeting notice was also sent to Comcast Cable and Verizon Fios. The board reserves the right to enter into executive session during all meetings of the Board of Education. The meeting is being videotaped for the purpose of board review, future reference, preparation of the minutes, and viewing on Comcast Channel 19, Verizon Fios Channel 32, and the school district website, www.hvrsd.org. Would you please join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will request a motion that the board approve the minutes from the regular and closed meetings on August 16th, 2021.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? The motion carries. And now I would like to welcome our new Central High School Student Board Representative, Mr. Neal, who will present a report for us. We're so happy that you're here with us. Thank you for serving in this way. Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Riley would like to say some words first.
Just wanted to provide a quick introduction about our spectacular new representative. We met last week, and he shared some fun facts about himself with me that I thought I would pass along to all of you. Sam is a member of our senior class. He is not only amazing and well-rounded in so many ways, but he is also a triplet. He is a fan of watching all sorts of different movies, but especially Marvel and Star Wars. And he will also watch any sports, but especially Detroit. Mr. Calavati, you still need to be nice to him. Okay. Sam is...
He likes Marvel.
Sam is a vital member of our student council, and he has a very thorough report to share with you this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. Sam, it's all yours. Oh, you can stay right there.
Hello, welcome to be part of the board, and overall for the general report is that the main theme is like about surrounding our homecoming dance this year, and due to COVID and just like the scheduling, we're pushing it back towards the spring, and that's really central towards the student body and also just the student council itself, because that's like our main source of revenue, but it's kind of over the theme of how we're handling like certain situations. Like I spoke to Ms. Olzik and Mrs. Lee, who are part of the student council as well, and they just stressed that all of our events should be pushed towards the spring because it shows the availability for more outdoor events, and all of our events we want to be COVID friendly, and we just want to prevent any source of outbreak. And so mainly for the student body, we're trying to limit and restrict all events happening during the winter and push them to either the fall or spring, but more towards the spring because we don't really know how the rest of the year is going to play out, but it gives us more time to react to certain situations developing. Another thing that Mrs. Lee brought up was that we're bringing back the annual blood drive, and this year is going to be very different because we're actually going to be working with Ewing to support it so that we could optimize participation among both communities. And this plan will allow us for the participants to choose the plan. So for our next meeting, we should have more updates about that, but we're working with Adopt a Week. So if you should look at I may be able to push out information on their website to show the different plans, but this way it will be at Ewing, but we get to select our own date. And we thought it was most important to not have it at our high school, but to choose it there because it allows, like I said earlier, the donors to choose when they have it, just so it maximizes the amount of people at the blood drive itself. And then just for general like student body activities, we have our first prep rally coming up on the 1st of October. And just for the rest of the year, like I stressed before, like it's important that all events like sanctioned by the student council and the school in general, we're just going to try and maintain it outside. And all of our backup plans as well, we're just all are going to be outside just to make sure that there's no source of outbreak among COVID. And then that's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Neal. Do any board members have questions for Sam? Seeing none, we will say thank you very much. And again, we're glad to have you here. Thanks for serving your school and community in this way. Yes, of course, you're welcome to stay and participate in the meeting with us and be a part of the process. So again, happy to have you here. I will share a few words this evening as part of my report. Just a general thanks to all of our staff for what proved to be a pretty smooth return to schools this fall. To our families and students, thank you for your cooperation and patience. We appreciate your continued support as the district works through any snags, particularly in the area of transportation. And we offer our thanks to the transportation staff for doing the best they can under difficult circumstances. A word also about Hurricane Ida. We owe a great deal of thanks to our staff who stayed at the schools and removed the water, preventing more severe damage in our facilities. We're also grateful to the first responders in our community for all they did. We continue to encourage families who have been displaced or may have experienced significant damage to reach out to the district if you're in need of support or assistance. We can only hope and pray that we don't need to continue to endure natural disasters such as this one, but if we do, it's good to know that we're in good hands, and we're grateful to all those folks. The board is also grateful for the cooperation and support of everyone in this school community as this new year gets underway. As an affluent, high-achieving district, and frankly, as one that is rather manageable given our size relative to other districts, we have fared better than most throughout this pandemic. I don't mean to downplay all that we've been through, and we've discussed this and will continue to discuss the challenges, but we have been rather fortunate. Our students, staff, and families have shown and continue to show great resilience. As this unique time in our history continues, we will continue to be faced with challenges, and I'm confident that we'll meet them if we continue to work together. Please know that the district administrators and board have appreciated the opportunity to receive your feedback through emails and public comment. We take everything you say under consideration, and it informs our decision-making. While we may not always be in agreement, we respect your input and decisions. We do our best to be responsive, transparent, and to share information in a timely manner. As local elected officials, we board members should be held to a high standard and are acutely aware of the responsibilities that we have to all district stakeholders. We take this job very seriously. And while we are all individuals with different philosophical beliefs and approaches, I appreciate the collaboration that occurs around this table and the respect that we have for one another to have rich and insightful conversations and deliberations and to ultimately make difficult decisions together. Decisions regarding the pandemic are never made in a vacuum. We vow that as your locally elected board members, we will continue to collaborate with the administration to make decisions that are in line with the most current policies and guidance from the CDC, the state, and our local departments of health. Decisions that are based in science and that support the health and welfare of our staff and students. We are not doctors or public health officials, and so we will continue to rely on the advice of our experts. In every way available to us, we continue to stay informed and in touch with authorities and experts. Case in point, I happen to serve as one of the 2 Mercer County representatives to the New Jersey School Board Association's Legislative Committee. And I was in a meeting on Saturday with one of the governor's top aides, Deborah Cuernavaca, one of his deputy chiefs of staff. She stated that the Murphy administration is strongly opposed to reverting back to a state of emergency and to a full remote option for learning unless the number of cases, rate of transmission, and other indicators were to force that situation. Because it is critical that our students be in person, it is best for them academically and for their social emotional health. She mentioned on Saturday that they have heard that the vaccine may be available for the 5 to 11-year-old group by Halloween, and as you know, this is a very fluid situation, and we heard as recently as today in reports that the Pfizer and BioNTech are set to apply to the FDA for the end of the month for authorization to make the vaccine available to the 5 to 11-year-olds. Ms. Cuernavaca said that the state continues to monitor guidance provided by the CDC. She also noted that state experts expect compliance with all directives and that the penalties will be severe for those who do not follow. With that in mind, this administration and board will adhere to the orders and guidance that have been set forth. We will look to the science and the experts, as I have said, and keep an eye to all developments. Dr. Treese will share more in this regard during her report this evening. These are tough times, emotional ones for all of us. And when all is said and done, while we may have differences, we are all united in a common goal of supporting our students and staff and in doing what is best for them and looking out for their best interests. As we do, the administration and board will continue to require and to promote an atmosphere of respect for one another. Our students continue to amaze us with their resilience. They will need to rely on trusted family members, staff, and other individuals as we navigate onward. I know that the district staff are committed to providing as much social, emotional support, structure, and predictability for our students as possible. Staff continue to encourage an atmosphere of cooperation and to foster kindness and acceptance in which students feel comfortable to seek supports as needed and will look out for each other. We also know that our children are watching us, all of us. As adults, it is incumbent upon us to model good behavior for them and to set the proper tone, even when we stand on different sides of the issues. We continue to encourage everyone to do the right thing, to alert your building nurses to any health concerns or travel plans, to proceed with caution when it comes to social gatherings outside of schools. Please know, as I mentioned earlier, that we value your feedback. We appreciate your support and the support provided by district stakeholders and community members to the benefits of our students and staff. Thank you. And with that, I will pass it to Dr. Treese for her report.
Thank you, President Linthorst. And you stole a lot of my thunder, thanking everybody. So I'm not going to read my introduction, which you really covered a lot of what I had. I wanted to keep this brief because we do have a very packed agenda this evening, and I do want to leave time for everyone to share. But I do want to take a moment to just reiterate that I thank my teachers, my facilities and maintenance crews for all of the hard work that they've done and continue to do to make sure that our buildings are staying clean and cleansed and sanitized, in addition to making the repairs that were caused by the storms. I want to thank our technology department, our bus drivers, our aides, paraprofessionals, secretaries, counselors, our therapists, our CST folk who've really been working 24/7 to make sure that our kids were able to transition back to in-person learning and to have a successful start to the school year. But in particular, I want to thank my parents, our guardians, who I know many of you had concerns whether or not you were ready to send your kids back to school, whether or not they would be safe, and trusting us to take care of your kiddos, and then also making sure that you support our guidelines and protocols and have been following those. We appreciate your support. A quick word of thanks for all of you rallying around the families who had lots of losses during the storms. As a community, you represented, as you always do, your level of generosity and just the efforts to reach out to someone in need and providing for those families. I know they're in appreciation of the many gifts that you've given them, the money we've raised to support them and continue to support them. And finally, I want to thank my administrative team, our school nurses who have been working tirelessly over the weekend, on holidays, to contact trace, to make sure they're communicating with families as we go through these initial cases that we're trying to navigate. I'm going to, in my report, share where you can get the most up-to-date information, knowing that it's fluid and it is changing in real time. So as I show you where things are, that dashboard will probably change this evening as I go in and do a few updates. But generally, I am pleased with the fact that we are managing the situation. There are some changes that we will need to make so that we can sustain these efforts until we are able to move forward with vaccinating our children that are eligible under the age of 11, and until we can sort of get past this first initial coming back to school and kids coming around each other, which we know as school starts, so do kids passing around viruses. That happens. And we're just going to get through this first initial hiccup, and then I know that things will improve. So what we pledge to do as we move forward into the school year is to continue to support students mentally and their physical health, staff and students. We'll also continue to use our established cleaning and screening protocols in our facilities to make sure that we're keeping our buildings clean, that when we do have students that we find are positive with the virus, that we're cleaning those spaces and providing a clean space for everyone to return to. That we're going to continue to encourage everyone to follow social distancing and PPE guidelines in all of our facilities indoors, and that we ensure that students have working devices so that if they do have to go home and quarantine, or we find ourselves in a situation where the state has decided we are going to go remote, that we are ready to do that, and that you have the devices you need and they're working. And we ask that if you're a member of the community and you don't have internet connection and you need support with that, please reach out to your building principal so that we can make sure that we're helping you get connected before there's a need. So where can you find information? On our website, on the main page, you'll see where I have circled COVID-19 information return to school. If you click on that link, you will find a lot of information about frequently asked questions, what do I do if my child's sick, the travel out of state and country guidelines, and then also you'll find the COVID-19 dashboard, which I will update as we finish contact tracing on cases. I update the dashboard. So currently, again, this will probably change here tonight when I get home and I have to add a couple more cases that I know we've finished the contact tracing on. But I've received a few emails with folks saying, well, I know this isn't up to date. Just because you've been contacted, I may not have updated this yet because I don't do that until I'm sure we're done contact tracing and I have all the numbers from that before I reach out to you. So how it's going to work for the community is your building principal, the school nurse in your building will reach out to you as they contact trace and say there's been an exposure and your child may need to quarantine. Once they finish contact tracing, the building principal will send out a notification to that school community. So if it's, say, Bear Tavern's at the top of my list, Principal Turnbow will send out to the school community, I finished contact tracing and this was the case. It was a staff member, it was 2 students. We can't give you any more particulars than whether it was a staff or a student. We can't give you particulars about who that student was, the grade level, or any information that may release their medical information, which is private. And then once a principal has been able to communicate that to you, I communicate to the wider district so everyone is kept in the loop about where our cases are, and then I change it on the dashboard. So that's been the process, and it doesn't happen as quickly as you may know, or if it's you personally, it's your family that's involved. It takes me a moment to update this to match what's going on in the schools sometimes. So if you can give us your patience on that, but I will promise to update this once we finish those cases. We're asking that parents remember to complete the daily screener so that we're going in and you're acknowledging that you've checked your child's fever, for fever, cough, sore throat, and the et cetera is a lot of these positive cases, students have been complaining of headaches, they've been complaining of stomach aches. So generally, if your child is feeling any symptoms where they're feeling sick, we're asking that you keep them home because those cases have been coming back as positive COVID. And it's not always a fever or a cough or a sore throat or something that emulates the flu. So we just wanted to remind folks of that questionnaire and filling that out. Other reminders, we're still asking parents and guardians to adhere the travel quarantine guidelines. Again, some parents have asked us just today if we can mandate this. There is no emergency order in place. I can't make you quarantine, but we're asking for the good of the school community that if you're traveling out of state, that you come back and then quarantine. Filling out the daily screener we talked about, following the masking protocols in all of our school facilities indoors. We also request that you stay home if you're sick. That's for our teachers and our students, any of our staff, and that we're social distancing inside and outside as much as possible. Now, these are the things that we can do in school. Outside of school, we're asking that you also try to do your best to not create large situations where kids are not social distancing, where they're outside even, where they're clumping up or having parties or things like that. Those cases affect our numbers inside too. So we're asking that parents try to do their best to make sure that kids are doing social distancing inside and outside. So if your child is exposed, I'll quickly go through the contact tracing protocols again. You will be contacted directly about the need to quarantine. If you're not contacted directly, then there's no need for you to quarantine. They would have contacted you. Each building principal will reach out to the school community to notify you of cases. The superintendent will then contact the full school community. Notification will occur after contact tracing has been completed on that specific case. And then we will not share specific information about students or the staff members in any way. So I get a lot of emails asking specifics. I can't share that with you. If your child was exposed, you will be contacted directly. And the district will follow the quarantine guidelines by the health department and the CDC. So I really don't have leeway to say that I'm going to do something different than what the dates and the times that the health department and your school nurse are giving you based upon your vaccination status, whether or not you're symptomatic or not, whether you're vaccinated or not. And then there's a protocol where you need to test before your child returns back to school between day 3 and 5 in order to have the shorter end of that quarantine. Without testing, then you will have the longer end of that quarantine. On vaccinations and testing, the district has applied for the free testing that the state has offered to us. That's supposed to be available for staff and students. I will not mandate that students test, but it will be available for any student or parent who wants access to that testing. And we will set that up on a central site outside of the schools, probably the board office, where parents can have access. So if your child is quarantining and you need that test, you wouldn't have to then go out. Especially, I know that this question came up before, a student doesn't have insurance or a parent doesn't have insurance. You could test here on site is what we're hoping very soon. And for our staff members who are not vaccinated also, or who are quarantining or who need a test through our exposure. We are also offering a booster clinic. We have that scheduled for November 4th at Hubbell Elementary School. This will be on that first day of teachers convention, so we are not closing school to run this clinic. And that will be, right now, the booster is going to be available for those 65 and older and those who are medically fragile in the area. We will also continue to advertise any other vaccination clinics that come up in the community or that are available to the public. The district is not mandating anyone to get vaccinated. That remains a parent's decision. Our teachers will not be discussing that with your children. I won't be. None of my leadership will be discussing that with you and your children. That's up to you. I can make it available to you. We can strongly encourage, but that's not for us to mandate. We are not mandating that you vaccinate your children at this time, nor are we mandating that staff do, although they are required for it by the state to get vaccinated and or test, prove that they have giving us negative tests at least once a week. Transportation has been difficult this year. We apologize for any problems that this has caused the families. If you've been watching the news, this is a national problem. The nation has a shortage of bus drivers. We are working tonight to make a change, hopefully, to the pay rate of our bus drivers and our aides, because right now we're paying very low compared to what some of the other districts are paying, and we're losing the bus drivers we do have to other districts. So we're looking to raise that tonight to hopefully improve. But in the meantime, while we work to resolve these bus challenges, we ask for your patience. And this was exacerbated by the storms and the damages to the roads and the bridges. Some will be impassable for years to come. But we hope to resolve this as best we can soon. There's been a question about the late buses. Hopefully when we can get ourselves to full capacity with staff, we can bring back those late buses. So we're not saying they're not coming back all year. But right now, we're just waiting till we can get staffed and we can add those afternoon runs back to the schedule. And we thank you for your understanding, and please keep reaching out to us and letting us know what's going on so that we can address those problems as they arise. I'm sorry, I thought you were saying something.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. And then finally, I wanted to put this out there in the community. I know that we've been advertising this. September is also Hispanic Latinx Heritage Month, and in celebration and recognition of Hispanic and Latinx Heritage Month, Dr. Plitzis is working with the HVEA and our our supervisor of English Language Arts for a book study. This is a young adult book written by a local author. She's right here in Yardley, Alexandra Villasante. The book is called The Grief Keeper, and though it's a young adult piece of literature, we recommend this for grades 9 and above adult. She will actually be presenting on her book, and she's also an activist in the Latinx community, so she has some great history to share, a lot about her craft as a writer. The book is a very interesting book. I did get a chance to read it. It's a nice piece of science fiction, but it also talks about, sort of touches upon, or deeply touches upon, the problems of immigration, of undocumented minors and young people coming to this country, and trauma. So it's a really good piece of literature, and I'm looking forward to this discussion with the author. If you'd like to come attend, we ask you that you join us. The link is here for registration, and we will be sharing out the slide deck with the notes. And then finally, I'm going to be passing off the presentation to Dr. Plitzis, who's going to be doing the first of our budget conversations for the year. This is a calendar of how we plan on having those discussions, so I wanted to put this out today, only as an introduction that Dr. Plitzis will be sharing the CNI budget this evening. I've done this over the past couple years as the director and assistant superintendent of CNI. We will also have presentations from other departments, special education, facilities. These departments take up a big chunk of our budget. And then we also have work sessions scheduled where we will discuss the budget in earnest, the tentative budget adoption in March, and then more opportunities if necessary for us to have conversations and to tweak as necessary before the final hearing on April 25th. Again, we want this process to be very, very transparent like in the past, where you have opportunities as a school community to see us talk through the budget. The difference this year, as in the past, is in the past, the Finance and Facilities Committee discussed this in their committee session, because we are a board run by committees, and then they would bring that to the larger board at the end. This year, those discussions will all take place as a board of the whole. So all the board members, especially after the start of the new year, we will have some new board members that will be coming onto the board, can hear that discussion as in real time with the Finance and Facilities folk. And Mr. Sawicki, who is the committee chair, was in agreement in support of this this year. So that is the end of my presentation. I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Treese. Do any
Principal
board,
Lindhorst.
thank you. Do any board members have any questions for Dr. Treese? Okay, you must have done a good job then. They're all quiet. Okay, thank you again. So with that, I guess we will be moving to our budget presentation, and Dr. Politzis.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. So just a little bit about curriculum and instruction. Rosetta, can you? This is just the overview of what we do for the district. Basically, we develop the curricular programs. We're a district liaison. Oh, it's not on? It's on. Can you hear? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. Okay, starting over. So this is just an overview of what the curriculum and instruction department does. They oversee curricular development. They identify needed policy revisions. They oversee the supervisory structure, and they coordinate and deliver the staff development and a bunch of other things. Next slide. This is just the organizational management structure of the director of CNI. And so we've changed a few responsibilities throughout this year, and we have some new additions. We have Dr. Scott Bertel, the director of STEM now, and we also have Mr. Dan DiStefano, who is the supervisor of counseling. In terms of curricular development, we are transitioning to a 7-year plan for curriculum development and revision. This will make it easy for the department to identify a schedule of curriculum rewrites along with provide revisions to be crafted in a more timely manner. This slide highlights some of the recent program initiatives that are in the works for this year, including the culturally responsive teaching audits and the integration of new standards such as the climate change standards. Additionally, we offered some additional transition programs this summer, including a K-8 summer school offering that focused on the core subject areas along with a STEM focus at the elementary level. Throughout the course of the year, Curriculum and Instruction oversees professional development opportunities. Many of these offerings are led by supervisors, teachers, and other administrators. We have brought in a few consultants to work with staff throughout these workshops as well. Part of the role of Curriculum and Instruction is also to serve as a liaison between the local universities. We are also part of their Teacher of Scholar program. CNI is also responsible for writing state and federal grants, as well as working with the Hopewell Valley Education Foundation on providing grant opportunities for faculty and staff members. These are the 3 areas of focus this school year for Curriculum and Instruction, and the upcoming and past workshops for staff development have focused on these areas and will continue to do so throughout this year. This year, we will be piloting 2 math programs for K-5 levels. We will also be reevaluating and restructuring the exceptionally able programming. Additionally, there are many new standards that have been developed in various areas that need to be implemented in September of 2022, so that will be a big focus of realigning our curriculum. Further, we will be exploring how we administer assessments and benchmarking, and exploring more student-centered instruction in ELA workshop and math workshop. We also continue to work with Maureen Siegler, who is a consultant for blended and personalized learning, and this is our final cohort, Cohort 5. We have about 14 teachers signed up, so that's a big group. This is the overall budget in terms of educational supplies, salaries, and purchase services. Overall, in comparing it from last year's budget, we are down by about $400,000 from last year. And then finally, in terms of professional development and the ESSA grant, we are about budget neutral as comparison from last year, but these are just the numbers for those 2 line items. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Politzis. Do any board members have questions for Dr. Politzis?
I have one.
Yes, Ms. O'Reilly.
So we're down about 400,000 in what area? Is it training because we're not doing in-person things, or where are we down?
We went down in education supplies by about 600. We were up in salaries by 100. And we were up by 100 in purchase supplies. So overall, the major decrease was for educational supplies.
Okay, thank you.
And just to go on that, the reason why the ed supplies are down 600,000, in last year's budget, there was a major technology refresh that didn't need to be done this year, so.
Thank you. One quick question, Dr. Politzis. You mentioned the 2 math pilots. Is that intended to go to a down select heading forward? And when are we planning to go ahead and select a new program and implement it?
Oh, good question, Mr. Zwicky. So we are piloting math expressions and math envisions beginning now, and we're throughout the course of the school year. We hope we will be meeting, and Dr. Patel will be leading this pilot. So Dr. Patel, if you want to jump in at any point, please do. But we will be meeting with the teachers and throughout the course of the year to evaluate. We're going to be collecting various data points with students, teachers, and also to parents eventually. And we hope to make a final decision by the March-April timeframe. And so whatever program we select will be in lieu of Go Math, which we currently use.
Okay. No, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, we will say thank you very much, Dr. Politzis. We appreciate it. And we will move into our first public comment period. Members of the public are invited to address the board on any matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You are asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Education may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by the district administration. Do we know if we have our pad on the podium this evening? Okay, so if you could just sign in when you come to the podium, we would appreciate that, your name, address, and municipality. Public comment is now open.
just going to fill this out first. Give me a
Of
minute.
course. Thank you. We keeping time? Do we not have our sign today? Do we not have our sign? Ms. Grillo, our vice president, will be our official timekeeper. So at 30 seconds, do you want to raise your hand? Thank you.
Jack, you don't have the sign over there, do you? There it is.
Oh, it is there. Okay. It made it over from the board office. Now you're official, Jess. Thank you, Jack.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being a wonderful and supportive school board for our children. I myself attended this school and all the other schools leading up to this school. So, which wasn't that long ago, but I won't tell you. I'm here as a concerned parent and community member.
I'm sorry, sir. Could you just state your name for
Oh,
us?
sorry. Matthew Branham.
Thank you.
I'm here as a concerned parent and community member. The Hubbell Valley Regional School District policy on quarantine with regard to COVID, I feel infringes on the equitable quality and quantity of education our public school students are receiving, as distinguished by medically and religious exempt children. In addition, this policy poses the risk of inflicting severe psychological distress on students and families who are being discriminated against due to their religious or medical positions. I request that either both vaccinated and unvaccinated students should have to quarantine if in close contact, or neither. Lawrence School District, for example, requires quarantine for close contact regardless of vaccine status. As an alternative, I suggest that students are only removed from school when sick or when testing positive for COVID. Limiting students' access to education based on religious belief is discrimination and violates the Constitution and Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Branham. Anyone else for public comment?
My name is Kate Ham Pennington. I know that my time is going to go over, so I'm going to split mine in half and speak the other half at the second speaking. Due to the lack of communication and transparency, I feel that my email communication to this Board of Education from last month must be read for the public record. Some of the most prophetic quotes stick with us for years. As an English major, my favorite author is Dr. Maya Angelou, and her favorite quote is, "Do the best until you know better. Then when you know better, do better." I send this email, which I sent last month, after a brief comment at Monday night's board meeting. In my comment, I requested to know what parameters, if any, have been put into place to handle the increase in HIB investigations when the district reaches the next phase, where vaccinated individuals will become mask optional. The response given danced around the question. I'll paraphrase. "We don't know when we will get to that point in the timeline. We don't anticipate an increase. We'll work with our students, and if there's an issue, we want you to reach out." The irony in this, I did reach out when there was an issue, and what my family was left with was a lack of trust in the school district and no accountability. This board, minus 2 members who didn't join until January 2021, sat in the same seats they currently sit in when my HIB investigation came to the table. As a parent and as an educator, I did everything right for my child to return to school in September 2020. My child is one that has been alluded to previously, one of a small number of students who, for whatever medical reasons, requires accommodations and modifications regarding a face covering. I worked with the Director of Pupil Services because my child with differing needs requires an alternative option to a traditional mask. With her approval, as well as the former superintendent and your district physician, my child began the school year fulfilling all requests that had been placed before us. What transpired only days into the school year and culminated just a few weeks has left my child scarred, on edge, lacking safety, security, and trust within her educational institution. Staff members in this district, specifically at Timberlane Middle School, did everything within their power to circumvent the policies, procedures, and people put in place to protect students like my child. There was no teacher-parent communication. There was no homeschool communication. Instead, my child was outed as being different, singled out, and made to feel inferior due to circumstances beyond her control. In her words, she was made to feel awkward, different, and weird as peers stared at her. The Hibb investigation was faulty from the start, and although I voiced my concerns then, no further follow-up was ever shared. There was no accountability on the part of staff members, which caused my child to feel as if it was her fault. Instead of using the incident as a teachable moment on varying levels, troubleshooting, self-advocacy, learning from mistakes, it was clear that these staff members educate from a different philosophy. It became evident that it was more of a do as I say, not as I do, or good for thee, but not for me philosophy. Previous incidents resulting in assault or harm, whether actual or perceived, have resulted in staff members being reassigned, yet my child was expected to continue to return daily to a building where she was left vulnerable and unprotected, and even made to walk past the classrooms where she was violated. I'll stop there and take my other 3 minutes the second hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Ham.
My name is Amy Clark. I am the mother of 4 with another on the way. My oldest daughters attend Tollgate in 2nd grade and kindergarten. Both of my daughters have a medical mask exemption. The district's own physician has approved their exemptions, with the protocol to return to school safely being have a plexiglass shield divider around their desk and maintain 6 feet social distancing. On the 2nd day of school, both of my daughters came home crying that they had to sit by themselves at lunchtime. The principal instructed them to sit at a table to eat lunch alone. My daughters, as well as my husband and I, were confused as to why they were not allowed at a lunch table with other classmates. This was not in the instructions from the school's physician, and to my knowledge, every child at lunch sits 6 feet apart eating maskless. My 7-year-old knew she was being discriminated against and felt bullied. She told me that when a teacher tried to move her to another table with classmates, the principal stopped her. When 2 boys tried to join her table, the principal sent them away. My 5-year-old, on her 2nd day of kindergarten, had to sit at a lunch table and eat alone. I have yet to hear a reasonable explanation as to why this has happened. In the principal's words, that's just how it panned out. However, she also mentioned that she has several parents who don't want their children near mine, even 6 feet apart. Therefore, in order to cater to these parents, the solution has become to isolate and segregate my children. Every parent has a line in the sand. If yours isn't your child wearing a mask, maybe we'll be not giving your child an experimental vaccine. I want you to pay careful attention to how my children are being treated for not wearing a mask. How do you think yours will be treated if you don't vaccinate them? Board of Ed, what is your plan when the vaccine is approved for the 5 to 11-year-olds? Will the children be seated at lunch tables based on their vaccination status? Will the classrooms be segregated for vaccinated and unvaccinated children? Maybe that's just how it will pan out. My children having to sit alone at lunch, walk in the back of the line, not being allowed to leave their desk in the classroom or ride the bus is just the beginning. Where do you draw your line? The day after the incident at lunch, I had to send my children to school wearing the You Matter Tollgate t-shirt. My 7-year-old looked at me teary-eyed and said, "But mommy, I don't matter." My 5-year-old, who has always loved school, started hiding her backpack and cries to me every night that she doesn't want to go back. It's Suicide Prevention Month. Per the email that Dr. Therese sent out last week, suicide is now the #2 killer of adolescents. Have we become so consumed by a virus with a mortality rate of 0.00003% in children K to 12 that we have significantly increased the suicide rate by segregating, isolating, and bullying children? In June, the CDC stated that there has been a 51% increase in suicide attempts among girls since the pandemic. I often say to my children, don't tell me, show me, AKA, practice what you preach. Board of Ed, it's time to show us that all children matter. Show them that they matter.
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
Hi, I'm Nicole Klein. I live on Reservoir Road in Hopewell. I'm here to talk about mask breaks and the lack of a policy on breaking with masks for students in school. I will say on a positive note, my fifth grader, who's in Hopewell Elementary, is being encouraged by his teacher to take a break every hour or so. And I know timing is weird for kids. They don't know what an hour is, but it seems like it's being encouraged, which is good. But on the high school level, there seems to be no guided breaks, and I think we might be making the assumption that children are doing that on their own at that level, but I don't think that's happening. What's a little more concerning is that there's variation in rules in class. So some teachers are making rules where if a child wants to take a sip of water in the classroom now, because there's mask mandates, they have to go outside. And here we are in this Board of Ed meeting. I've seen people just take their mask down, take a sip of water, and you put it back up, and it's no big deal. We don't have an issue with it, and we're all at much higher risk than our children in school. So I think that we should have a policy in place where students could take a sip of water in class. It seems pretty basic. Otherwise, make a consistent policy to have encouraged mask breaks across the district, not just for the younger children, so that they're getting a break outside of lunch. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing no one, we will close public comment. No, actually, we won't close it yet. And we can decide if there are some of these we'd like to address this evening. Do you want me to kind of review, or do you have a list of the different topics that were discussed this evening? Some may require further research.
The quarantining policy, we both addressed, and I think that you've addressed in your opening comment that we have to follow the protocols by the health department and the CDC. We too ask the questions as they come to us. We've approached our health department, and these are the guidelines that we need to follow, and the state has been clear that that is their expectation. I can't speak to what other boards have decided to do in their respective school districts. That's up to them to deal with if they're violating what we've been told to do, but we are following the guidelines as put forth by the health department with your vaccination status and if you are symptomatic or not, regardless of if you are vaccinated or not. I'm not going to answer anything specifically about students in their specific cases. The next two, I have spoken to Mrs. Clark and Mrs. Ham extensively on both of these, but I don't choose to speak on those in public as they're specific to children. What I will say about this, though, is I want to be very clear that we do not encourage any parents or anyone to mistreat someone else's kids. I don't encourage or condone folks reaching out and kind of trying to figure out what somebody else's kid's entitled to or not. And if someone is being bullied and there's harassment going on, we take those accusations very seriously and we investigate them, and that we make sure that those things are not happening in our schools. So I just want to be clear on that. No one should be being treated differently because they're due accommodations here or not, or your choice is to vaccinate your child or not. I want to be very clear about that. We are not trying to create a situation where children feel singled out, and I try to communicate to the public and have recently in many meetings that we shouldn't be doing that to each other's children. So I agree with you that that should not be happening. And then finally, on the mask breaks, I will look into that. We need to be consistent and make sure that all kids are encouraged to take a mask break. There isn't anything wrong with somebody pulling the mask down and taking a drink. So I'll just make sure that we reiterate that with our teachers and our faculty. I'm sure they're just trying to be really safe and a little nervous as well, but we want to make sure that people are getting those breaks in. So I'll make sure that we're communicating that and trying to make sure we have consistency with those breaks. at all grade levels, not just at the lower grades.
Dr. Treese?
Sorry, oh,
Oh, yes.
With the mask, you don't know where
Okay, I
it's
didn't
coming
know where
from.
it came from.
Ms. Williams,
Just to
go ahead.
clarify again, if there is some contact made and children are asked to be quarantined,
Yes.
it is not based on their vaccination status. Is that correct or incorrect?
That's incorrect. If students are vaccinated and they don't have symptoms, right now the guidelines say that they do not have to quarantine. They still have to test within those 3 to 5 days to make sure they're not positive, but they don't have to quarantine after asymptomatic. If you're unvaccinated, you have to immediately quarantine. That is the guidelines.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we will close public comment. Thank you, Dr. Treese. Moving on to old business, I wanted to mention that I thank all board members for participating in the board's self-evaluation, our annual evaluation. I will be working with the New Jersey School Board Association to tally the results of that and to provide a report shortly to everyone. We are hoping to have one of the NJSBA field reps come out to join us at a meeting in the near future. I believe we're planning to do that in December. And that way we can complete that evaluation before our new board members join us in January. And we will invite those board members to come and to listen in so that they can hear what it's all about. Consent agenda. I'd like to request a motion that the board approve the consent agenda items that have been marked by the asterisk, please.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Or any further discussion, I should say. And then any opposed or abstaining. The motion carries. Mr. Sawicki, would you please provide a report from the Finance Committee?
Sure. Can I have a motion to the item G9, please?
I'm sorry, one more time on that?
Sorry.
Can-
Motion to move item G9. I apologize.
Okay.
Motion.
Second.
Okay. So Finance and Facilities had a meeting last Wednesday, discussed a number of topics. One is an update on our transportation situation, and we discussed our current hourly rates and where they fall relative to the market for our drivers and attendants. So that will actually be addressed under personnel, but it was reviewed by Finance and Facilities first. The second thing was a review of where we stand after the hurricane. So thanks again to our staff who helped make it much less severe than it could have been. Apparently there were 3 feet of water in the 100 hallway here. I'm sorry, 3 inches of water. Thank goodness it wasn't. And they managed to get it out that first night, and limit the amount of damage. So we've been in contact with our insurance agents. We're actually starting the process, and what we approved under item G8 was actually the first sets of work to be done to remediate damage here as well at other schools. We also heard an update from Tom Quinn, our Director of Facilities. Not only are we looking to address what was damaged, but look to understand exactly what happened and take steps to remediate our facilities so that it does not happen again. As we understand it, this storm exceeded pretty significantly the 100-year storm criteria by which our facilities are designed to. So I'll leave that at that. But beyond that, item G9, we have a donation by an anonymous donor for $6,000 to be used for soccer shelters, the purpose for girls soccer. So we're very appreciative of that, and I request that you approve it.
Do we need him to do all in favor or should I can do it. Okay, so all in favor of passing item G9?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Sawicki. We appreciate it.
And those shelters too will also be able to be used for any of the sports, say football, that use the turf as a home field.
Thank you. Personnel Committee report. Ms. Grillo, I know you weren't able to be with us this evening, but Ms. Smith has offered to provide the report if that is to your satisfaction. Okay.
Okay, good evening. So earlier this evening, we had our personnel agenda, our personnel meeting, where we discussed for your approval this evening the contracts of our directors of pupil services, Ms. DiNardo, and curriculum instruction, Dr. Politzis. In addition, the personnel appointments included several new paraprofessionals along with their stipends. And most notably, we're excited for the approval of a new vice principal at Central High School. That would be Anson Smith, who actually is here with us this evening. Hi. Welcome. Anson comes to us from Hunterdon Central High School. He has had over 20 years of experience teaching AP History and Humanities and Social Studies. He served as the boys' head soccer coach at Hunterdon Central since 2008, and he's had extensive leadership experience over the many years throughout his district. So we're excited to put him forward for your approval this evening. In addition, the appointment of our anti-bullying specialist, Dan DiStefano, who is our supervisor of counseling. I know that Dr. Treese has mentioned this several times before and did earlier this evening, but the transportation concerns that we've been experiencing, we discussed the increase in per diem rates in order to retain and also to find more drivers to assist with the transportation difficulties that we've been having. And I think that's it for the agenda items this evening.
All at once? Okay. I'd like to request a motion to approve all of the items on the personnel agenda tonight, please.
So moved. Second.
It's a roll call, correct?
Okay, Ms. Grillo?
Yeah.
Mr. Herbert?
Yes.
Ms. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Ms. O'Reilly?
Yes.
Mr. Sawicki?
Yes.
Ms. Williams-Galliano?
Yes.
Ms. Driver?
Yes.
And Ms. Linthorst?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Smith. And welcome to Mr. Smith. We're glad to have you on board.
No relation.
No relation. Education Program Committee, Ms. Long.
So can I please have a motion and a second for items 15 and 16 on the EdCom agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Before we get to those, I'll just mention our two presentations today. Dan DeStefano, did I say that correct? DeStefano? DeStefano, sorry. He's new. First time I've met him. He's the new supervisor of counseling. Gave us an update on our 2021 graduating seniors, and 79% are in four-year colleges and 13% in two-year programs. And we discussed he would like to bring a program to the school where recent graduates come back and have maybe a panel discussion about what they're up to and what their future looks like. And we discussed not calling it College Connection, which is what I think his old district had done, but include students who have chosen other pathways other than just college, or who had started at college and decided it wasn't right for them, including or other students who choose to go into the military or a trade school. So going forward, I think we'll be looking at doing something like that, and he's going to look into that. And then we had Lois Baldwin, who has been working very hard, and I think this is an amazing program, and very impressed that she got this going. It is called the Newcomer Academy, and it is at the Mercer County Technical School. It is for SLIFE students, and can you, Paulette, tell us exactly I can't remember the exact, what SLIFE, the acronym is? It's
Life is
Limited
students with
English.
limited and interrupted formal education.
So as students who English may not be their first language, or due to circumstances have not had continuous education. So they can go to this program at Mercer County Tech and get support. They have English as a second language teacher with them all day, and it is a chance for them to get the education that they deserve to get. So she's been working for 3 years. It's right now open to Mercer County schools, but they're looking to make it statewide. So that, I was very impressed with that she spoke about today. Our non-consent items, we are approving the pre-K through 12 curriculum that we need to do annually, which I think is a roll call, so should we do that? Mr. Colavito? Okay, and the second one is the resolution to acknowledge and celebrate the contributions of Asian American Pacific Islanders with the inclusion of AAPI curriculum in the schools. And I think Dr. Therese? Or just has something to read about that for us.
Yeah, so we've had the pleasure of working with an organization called Make Us Visible New Jersey, which is a coalition of students, parents, educators, legislatures, professionals, and New Jersey community members advocating for the thoughtful and comprehensive inclusion of Asian American and Pacific Islander studies into the K-12 curriculum for New Jersey public schools. So we wanted to just put in a resolution to support the bill that they're proposing, which is A5737.
Thank you, Dr. Politzis, and I will read that resolution so that we have that read into the record. It's the resolution to acknowledge and celebrate the contributions of Asian American Pacific Islanders with the inclusion of AAPI curricula in HVRSD schools. Whereas in the United States, the month of May each year is celebrated as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, this annual celebration came about in 1978 when President Jimmy Carter signed into law a joint resolution of the Congress of the United States designating the month of May for the celebration of Asian and Pacific Islanders' culture and heritage. Whereas the Hopewell Valley Regional School Board of Education is committed to inclusion and advancing equity and justice for people of all races, national origins, and ethnicities. Whereas AAPI communities are immensely diverse, consisting of multiple ethnicities, hundreds of languages and dialects, wide-ranging socioeconomic characteristics, and distinct immigration patterns. Whereas the belief that AAPIs are a monolithic group and achieve universal success, also known as the model minority myth, perpetuates stereotypes and masks the disparities within these communities, particularly among Southeast Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. Whereas racism and scapegoating towards AAPIs have persisted since the 19th century and contributed toward policies like the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, which prohibited immigration of Chinese laborers, and introduction of the term yellow peril, which represented East Asians as dangerous and threatening to the United States. Whereas racist policies continued into the 20th century with the Immigration Act of 1924, effectively banning all immigration from Asia, Executive Order 9066 in 1942, authorizing the incarceration of Japanese Americans during World War II, and others that have impacted Southeast Asian Americans, South Asians, Muslims, and Sikhs, among others. Whereas in 1982, the Asian American community mobilized for justice after Vincent Chin was murdered in Detroit, Michigan, by two individuals who perceived him as Japanese and reportedly blamed him for the declining auto industry, making this one of the first widely known cases of a crime targeting an Asian American based on race. Whereas since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in New Jersey in March of 2020, harmful and xenophobic rhetoric related to the geographic origins of this disease resulted in a rise in reported hate incidents and crimes against AAPI individuals, communities, and businesses throughout the nation. Whereas according to New Jersey law enforcement, during 2020, there were at least 1,441 reported bias incidents in the state. This is a 45% increase from 2019. Whereas Stop AAPI Hate, a national coalition aimed at addressing anti-Asian discrimination amid the pandemic and founded by the Asian Pacific Policy and Planning Council, Chinese for Affirmative Action, and San Francisco State University's Asian American Studies Department, documented over 2,800 hate incidents targeting AAPIs in the United States in 2020, since March of 2020. Whereas according to a report from Stop AAPI Hate, 59 of the over 2,800 hate incidents occurred here in New Jersey, making it the state with the 8th highest number of incidents. Whereas in history and at this moment in time, we acknowledge the multiple harms and trauma that have existed and converged simultaneously in marginalized communities of all backgrounds in our region. Whereas AAPIs in the Hopewell Valley and our broader region are increasingly concerned about their safety and well-being. Given the rise of racially motivated attacks and hate crimes. Whereas despite these increasing acts of hate and bigotry, AAPIs have made our state and our nation more secure through its history, and more recently during the COVID-19 pandemic, with an estimated 2 million Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders serving on the front lines of this crisis as healthcare providers, as first responders, and in other essential roles. Be it resolved that the HVRSD Board of Education will work to ensure that all members of AAPI communities, no matter their background, the language they speak, or their religious beliefs, are treated with dignity and equity. And be it further resolved that the HVRSD Board of Education acknowledges and celebrates the contribution of AAPI with the inclusion of AAPI history in Hopewell Valley Public Schools curricula, along with an annual recognition and celebration of AAPI Heritage Month.
We'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Herbert?
Yes.
Ms. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Ms. O'Reilly?
Yes.
Mr. Sawicki?
Yes.
Ms. Williams-Galliano?
Yes.
Ms. Driver?
Yes.
Ms. Grillo?
Yes.
Ms. Linthorst?
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you very much. And we will move on to our Community Relations Report. Mr. Mason.
Yes, thank you. Community Relations met last week. Went over a couple things, obviously. First was the start of the year communication from Dr. Therese. Gave her some feedback, see where we should go with it. I think Dr. Therese, in a very tough year, we're opening back up, full tilt. Has done a really good job of keeping everyone informed. Along with that, we decided it would be a good idea that there be bi-weekly communication on top of the, obviously, anytime there's COVID or any news like that, we're going to stay in contact. But on top of that, bi-weekly update of the school, communication from Dr. Therese. It's a good way to put the stuff out there that's going on with the school. There's enough stress going on with COVID, and I think it's a good way to for everyone to remember that there's a lot of good going on too in the district. So I'm looking forward to that. We're also looking, Dr. Therese said, be looking to do a monthly video. It's another way to communicate with everyone. The more we can get stuff out there, the more people can see. I think it's there's a lot good going on top of the tough time that everyone's going through too. So we're looking forward to that. We went over the Hopewell Express insert we do. We're really looking to be able to get that out to more people. So we're looking into being able to get that online as well, like having a link that it'll be easier to access. The more people that can read it, the more we can get it out there is a good thing. Also, we talked about it a little bit. We want to look into it more. Obviously, Mark Amatea did a good job with the revamping the website, making it more user-friendly. I've used it. I think it's really good, but we're looking to go into it more. Anywhere we can see improvements. So we always want to be assessing it, and anywhere we can improve it, we're looking forward to it. So we're going to go over that more in the future at the next meeting. And also, want to use social media a little bit more. Stuff goes on. Use our social media to really retweet it, for example, get stuff out there. Just the more people can see, I think it's good for everyone, good for the community to see what's going on with our schools. And that's it.
Any questions for Mr. Mason? All right, seeing none, we'll say thanks and move on to Mr. Herbert and policy, please.
Okay, thank you. We also met last week and discussed 4 policies for first reading. So could I have a motion for approval of these policies for first reading?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. So these policies are, first one is 5111, eligibility of resident, non-resident students. Just added statutory language which addresses residency criteria for a student residing outside the district to be allowed to continue attending school in the district. The second one, 2467, surrogate parents and resource family parents. There were some minor language changes that were made based on changes to the administrative code. One of these was the replacement of the term foster parent with resource family parent. We also decided to adopt the optional statement, part of the policy, that a surrogate parent would be paid to act in that capacity. The next one is 5116, education of homeless children. This policy added a new requirement to the district to annually report to the Office of Homelessness Prevention an accounting of each instance in which the district is made aware that a student enrolled in the district because their parents moved from one district to another as a result of being homeless. And then the fourth one is policy 2422, health and physical education. This one is based on some new statutes. We added the following items that are related to student health and well-being to the list of curriculum requirements. And those items are history of disabled and LGBTQ persons and financial literacy. So any questions or comments on those four policies? Okay, seeing none. So could we have a voice vote for approval of these policies for first reading? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. The second item is a policy for abolishment. This one is children displaced by domestic violence. Basically, it's policy 5114. All of the requirements in this policy were added to the other policy that we just talked about, 5111, so we can abolish this policy. I know we need a roll call for this, Bob. Should we do it now, or can we do it together with the second part?
You can roll, you want to roll them together? We can roll them together.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. Okay, so the third item is policies for second reading. These are policies that we went over last time. Any questions or comments on these policies? So I'd like to request a motion to approve these for second reading and adoption.
So moved.
Okay. Ms. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Mason,
Yes.
Ms. O'Reilly,
Yes.
Mr. Sawicki,
Yes.
Ms. Williams-Galliano,
Yes.
Ms. Driver,
Yes.
Ms. Grillo,
Yeah.
Mr. Herbert,
Yes.
and Ms. Linthorst.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Herbert. Appreciate it. We have our review of board calendars, September and October. And I know we're moving some things around a little bit, but let's start with finance. Oh, I'm sorry, a motion to approve the calendars for September and October.
Motion.
Need a second? Thank you. So, finance.
I was going to suggest the 5th or the 7th. That works for,
What time do you want to do?
you guys tell me.
Oh, the 5th is not good for me.
Okay.
I can't do that. 7th, I think I can do.
7th was good?
For me.
Deb?
Yeah.
Deb,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Adam?
Yeah.
What time's good for you guys? 6, 5?
Anytime, I'm fine.
We're working on, Adam, I know you had some
Yeah, let me just check.
job-related stuff going on.
Should we set for 7 to be safe?
Honestly, if people can do 7, that might work out best.
Okay.
If people can do that,
Okay.
Yep.
great, thank you.
Thank you. 7th and 7. Personnel. 6:15 on
11?
the 11th.
Yep.
Well, that's Columbus Day. Are we moving it?
What, the board meeting?
Yeah.
We've always had it on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Have we ever had to move it in the past to a Tuesday, or no?
No.
Okay. Ed program, we had some discussion today
Yeah, we
about that,
talked
right?
about, Mondays being tough and timing being tough. So we decided, and I think everyone was in agreement, to do the Tuesday, try to be consistent before the meetings. So this would be Tuesday, October 5th at 10 a.m.
Yeah, that's already on the calendar.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
look at that.
Confirmed.
Dr. Teresa's
We're
on
there.
top of it.
Okay, that was easy. Community relations.
Any chance the 6th works for anyone? At 3?
Works for me.
Yeah, 3:30. Either way.
I can do 3, but I can't do 3:30. Like, I would have to stop.
We have a hard stop.
Hard stop.
So October 6th at 3:30?
3.
3.
3. Okay, thank you. And policy.
For the 6th or 7th, can we do? I'm good for either of those. We usually do 6 o'clock.
You want to do policy right before?
He said 6 PM.
Yeah, it would be
right
right
oh,
before,
before.
right before finance.
Oh, that's right, we have
That would
finance,
work
yes,
for me.
yes, yes.
Is the 7th okay for everybody? Okay. Anita?
The 6th, right before, 6th at 6, or 7th at 6, 7th at 6. That's fine.
October 7th, 6 p.m. Okay.
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 All in favor of accepting the calendars?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Any items of new business to bring before the board? Okay, let's move along to our second public comment session. Members of the public are invited to address the board on any matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You are asked to state your name, address, and municipality, and to write them in on the board, on the pad on the podium. In response to your comments, the Board of Education may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by district administration. Public comment is now open.
Kate Ham, Pennington. I'm going to finish where I left off. I disagreed with the findings of the HIB and intended an appeal, which 2 of you sat on here. Still, the board stood behind the findings of the HIB and the recommendation of the superintendent. Did anybody ask questions, or was the recommendation just accepted? Now that 2 key people from that investigation have now left the district, it's important that you, the elected Board of Education members, are aware of the angst that my family continues to endure. I collaborated with building administration on a support plan which turned out to be nothing but a bunch of words on a piece of paper never fully followed through. Had I known then that it would never be followed, alternate action would have been taken, but I put faith and trust into the district staff, which failed my child. Imagine that you have been prejudged by others for something beyond your control. Then, and only then, might you have an inkling of an idea of what we've endured. To date, both myself and my child have no resolution and many unanswered questions. All we're told is, we can't go back, you have to move forward, we have to deal with the here and now, and no good will come from attempting a resolution. Such a disheartening approach and result from a district that wants to publicly shout, we support mental health from the rooftop, but behind closed doors looks very different. While I can say that we've met a handful of caring, compassionate, and collaborative teachers in our few years here, the lack thereof at TMS staff has been etched into our minds forever. While the staff and board believe this to be resolved, without answers, accountability, and intensive therapy, it will never be resolved for us. Your former district HIB coordinator may have deemed this incident unfounded, but that does not mean it didn't happen, nor does it negate the intense emotions brought forth as a result. It is a mental health concern, and through a district psychiatric evaluation, my child received an additional diagnosis directly related to this, which was emailed to you. My child has never despised teachers or schools. From her lips, the 2020-2021 school year will go down as the worst year ever. It didn't have to be this way, but remaining silent and sweeping uncomfortable conversations under the rug has allowed it. My hope is that sharing our story provides the district with more information so that we can do better on this mental health quest. I have unresolved matters that I wish to address with yourselves and/or the necessary administration representatives. That same evening, the response I received was, as board members, our task is to ensure the district schools are run properly and efficiently, not to run them or become involved in the day-to-day operations of the district. I will discuss your concerns with Dr. Therese to ensure that they are addressed appropriately by district staff administration. I waited a couple of days to digest that and replied 3 days later saying, The board duties are to ensure that the district is run properly and efficiently, which makes one wonder why teachers who purposefully circumvented procedures, as well as staff and administrators, in place for a protected group of individuals continued without repercussions. Board Policy 3280, Pupil Welfare, states that teaching staff members are governed by the rules to protect the well-being of pupils. Also indicated, teaching staff members must maintain a standard of care for supervision, control, and protection of pupils and report immediately to the building principal any safety hazards. Board Policy 3281, Inappropriate Staff Conduct, begins with the board recognizing
Thank
the
you, Ms. Ham.
I have 3 sentences left.
No, I'm sorry, your time
Recognizing
has
the
expired.
responsibility to protect the
Ms.
health,
Ham.
safety, and welfare of all pupils
Ms. Ham,
within the
your
school
time has
district.
expired. You will be
As the Board of
removed.
Education, your duties were to ensure that these and all other policies were upheld and properly followed.
Dr. Treese, as you mentioned earlier, you're not going to comment on a specific student incident, correct? Thank you.
I just want to say one thing. Yes, of course, your question was, did we ask questions? Yes, we asked questions, and yes, we discussed it.
Anyone else for public comment?
Good evening. My name is Anson Smith. I'm not from the district, but I am excited and thankful for the opportunity to be the next vice principal here at Central High School. I do want to make abundantly clear there is no connection with the large donation to the soccer program and my coming here, despite my soccer background. But I'm very excited. Thank you to the hiring committee for all their hard work throughout the process and making me feel very comfortable and at home throughout the entire process. So thank you. I'm looking forward to getting started, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Welcome aboard. Anyone else for public comment?
Matthew Branham here again. I just wanted to say that I think it's our duty as citizens to really question when something like the Center for Disease Control or the Public Health Board, which don't make laws or enforce laws, put down a guideline that is blatantly discriminatory and expresses segregation towards our children. We have to take that into account. We have to look at that, we have to question that, and we have to reject that if it means that it discriminates against people in our community. So, as I mentioned earlier, Lawrence School District does not have that discriminatory policy. Why they rejected it, I have no idea, but they did. And I think it's something that we need to really consider. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, seeing no one, public comment is now closed. I'll request a motion that the board enter into executive session to discuss a student matter. No action will be taken.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.